everyone, welcome to me and Grok in the kitchen. Today's episode is going to be a little different because we're not making an actual recipe. I actually want to talk to you a little bit about herbs and spices. The other day, somebody asked me what would be my top 10 herbs and spices I would have in my spice rack if I was just starting out, poor college student, first time in my own place. Like, what would I need to really enhance my cooking so that I don't mind cooking? And I had a bunch of things that came to mind really, really quickly. And then I thought, well, okay, that's what I would say now. But what would I say if I was back when I first started cooking, back when I was young? What are the things that really would have made a difference for me back then? And because, quite frankly, my access to a lot of herbs and spices in my spice rack is much larger than it used to be. Some might actually say it's a little out of hand. But what are those first 10? So I wanted to go through and talk about what I think those top 10 herbs and starter herbs and spices might be. But before we do that, I'd like to just tell you why you even need herbs and spices in your spice rack. So, the first thing I want to say about herbs and spices is that they are really the most important part of your kitchen tools. Herbs and spices take food from being just kind of bland and nutritious to being really delicious and can really make distinctions for cultural cooking that you're making. For example, they are great for flavor enhancement. So, herbs and spices add primary tastes like sweet, sour, bitter, salty, and umami. They also provide aroma. So, there's volatile oils in them that are perceived largely through your nose, and that's what makes your food smell delicious. They're also really great for cultural and regional identity. They're the signature pieces of cuisines like the French. They use a lot of rosemary, thyme, lavender, fennel, and then there's Mexico, which uses a lot of cumin, oregano, and chili peppers, right? The other thing that herbs and spices do is they add color to your food. So something like turmeric makes really nice golden curries and rice. Paprika adds red and orange hues. Saffron has this beautiful luxury yellow color. And parsley and chives and other bright green herbs give you bright green finish to all of your dishes. Herbs and spices are also extremely helpful for health and digestion. So, things like cumin, coriander, ginger, peppermint, they're all really good at reducing bloating. Cayenne, ginger, black pepper, those all stimulate circulation. Mint, cilantro are used in hot climates because they are cooling. And turmeric, ginger, and garlic, those are all anti inflammatory compounds. The other thing that herbs and spices are good for are visual and textural appeal. So, fresh herbs are great for garnishes. Think parsley, cilantro, basil, especially as a chiffonade. Whole and cracked spices like peppercorns and cardamom pods are great for texture and they do a slow release of their flavor. And of course, you can't forget the old standbys, salt and pepper. And I call them old standbys because every household has to have salt and pepper. For one, because salt makes food taste more like itself. So it enhances everything that you make. Do use a cautious hand. Don't forget to season along the way. But salt really is an important component to your cooking. Pepper's the same way. Pepper gives you some floral notes. It's got peppery kinds of notes to it. So it's got a little spice. It's a little different from a chili spice. So again, it's extremely common. So it's not going to surprise you that the first two ingredients on my top 10 are salt and pepper. That said, I was still struggling a little bit on what might be the other 8 in my top 10 list. And I thought to myself, this is a really great opportunity to ask Grok a question. So I did, and this is what he said. So as it turns out, I did not necessarily disagree with Grok. I might make a tweak here and there, but in general, I think Grok got this spot on. So let's talk about what these top 10 are. First of all, let's talk about salt. So here I don't disagree with Grok. I think I've already talked about salt a little bit, but I do recommend that instead of getting table salt or something with iodine in it, that you find kosher or sea salt if you can and use that. And the reason why is because table salt has anti-caking agents and iodine, and I can taste those in my cooking. If it doesn't bother you, go for it. But table salt versus kosher or sea salt, the price difference is really negotiable. So you can get a good kosher salt or a sea salt, and it's not going to cost you more money than regular table salt would be. And I want to reiterate that salt is very necessary because it makes food taste more like itself, where herbs and spices make food taste like the cuisine you want it to be. Then there's black pepper. Now, with salt and pepper, you can get these in what's called a mill or a pepper mill. And what it means is the salt comes in big chunks or the pepper comes as peppercorns. And you get the mill and you grate it, you grind it, you ground it, grind it, grind it. I'm going to go with grind it as you're actually using it. Black peppercorns are fine. You don't need anything fancy like white. White actually gives you a little bit different flavor profile than black does. Black is more common. You can get pre-ground pepper, but I have found that that gets old really quick and loses its flavor faster. So if you're not going to be a heavy pepper user, then go with the peppercorns. They'll last a lot longer. Grind what you need when you need it. The cheapo mill that is already loaded with pepper in the spice aisle works just fine. And again, the price for salt and pepper in these grinders is very comparable to what you would get. The ones that I found were about $3, and that was more of a premium brand than the store brand. From there, we start getting into the other really common, most useful things. So one is garlic powder. Don't get garlic salt. You already have salt, so you can add your own. And most of the time you want to do that anyway because it's very heavily salted and you always end up, I think, having too much salt in whatever you're cooking. So garlic powder adds a nice savory twist and an umami depth to almost anything that you put it in. And you can also get really quick flavor without chopping fresh and going through the expense of getting fresh. Then there's onion powder. Same as garlic powder, salt comment and all. Plus, onion powder pairs really great with garlic powder for everyday use. You certainly can use fresh whenever you want to. In fact, there are times you will want to use fresh and chop it anyway because of what you're cooking. But if you're just doing a quick weeknight thing or making a rub or something, you definitely want the powder. Then there's paprika, and you can find it regular, sweet, smoked, spicy. Just get anything that says regular, anything that says sweet. Paprika adds a very mild sweetness and color to whatever you're cooking. It has a great subtle flavor without heat. Smoked paprika is an upgrade that is well worth it. It is a little bit more expensive, but not a lot. But boy, it is well worth it if you can afford it because you get beautiful smoky flavors in with your paprika. The next one, number 6, is chili powder. This is a blend of a lot of different peppers. Now, in my opinion, it's a crapshoot on how hot the powder is or is not. Most of the time, the jar doesn't tell you which peppers are actually in the blend, but it is very budget friendly. You can use it to kick anything up a notch with almost any food because it provides mild heat and depth. And quite frankly, you cannot make anything Mexican, including tacos, without chili powder. Number 7 is not just an herb, it's a blend of herbs. I'm talking about Italian seasoning. You can just go with plain old oregano here, which is something I really, really love. But Italian seasoning gets you a little more bang for your $3. So what's the difference? Well, Italian seasoning has a mixture of herbs in it, like oregano. It also includes basil, thyme, rosemary, sage, parsley, and red pepper flakes. So you get a lot more flavor from one jar of herbs. But like I said, just oregano is also a choice. Number 8 is ground cumin. This is a lovely spice that marries very well with chili powder for Mexican style cooking. It brings warm, smoky, earthy flavors to your dishes. Number 9 is crushed red pepper flakes. Now, crushed red pepper flakes add some spice and heat to whatever you're putting it on or in. I personally would go for Aleppo pepper flakes instead of your ordinary crushed red pepper flakes. You use them exactly the same way. The price is comparable, but Aleppo brings a little less heat and a little more flavor. Particularly, it has a wonderful, subtle, smoky flavor to it that I just really think makes a better addition, especially if you're throwing it on pizza. If you want it for the heat, go right ahead. But with Aleppo pepper, you can get the heat and a little bit of smokiness to it as well. And then number 10, last but most certainly not least, is the only sweet spice on my list, and that is cinnamon. Cinnamon can make a dish go either way, sweet or savory. Cinnamon is very common in complex Indian dishes, and you just cannot have cinnamon toast or snickerdoodles without it. So the best thing about these top 10 herbs and spices is that you can make a lot of different combinations from them, whether you're making a rub or you're just sprinkling it on your chicken or whatever you're doing. It's a lot of variations you can make. As an example, a great house seasoning would be salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and paprika. You get a lot of flavor bombs from that. It's great to sprinkle on anything from mashed potatoes to your chicken breast to your steak. It's a great little house seasoning. But you can, using those 10, you've got lots and lots of combinations that you can come up with. So the only barrier to what you can do with your flavor profiles is how inventive you get. So a couple of things to note about herbs and spices, particularly spices. First of all, if you're using dried, remember that all the water has been taken out of that leaf or that spice. And that means that that flavor will be more concentrated than if you use fresh. So if you're going to use fresh, remember you're going to need to use maybe a little more. Remember, it's more delicate. Put it in at the end. Don't put it in the beginning because that flavor is going to dissipate if you put it in the very beginning of your cooking. There are a lot of volatile oils in herbs and spices. And with spices in particular, you're going to want to do a couple of things with them to really get a full impact of what you've got in your dish. And one of them is to just toast them. And you just put them in a dry frying pan, you put them on a low heat, you move them around a little bit. You're just looking for them to come up to some temperature and you can smell them. As soon as you can smell them, turn them off. They're done. They're activated. They're ready to go. The other thing, you can do something called blooming, and that's where you actually have oil and you put your ground herbs and spices right into that oil and you let it kind of just cook for a minute or two. And what's going to happen is it's going to release a lot more of its own volatile oils and you're going to get a lot more punch out of what you're using for your jarred spices. Now, stocking your kitchen with all 10 of these at once is going to cost you anywhere from $20 to $35, depending on what brands you pick. Now, budget items, obviously, it's store brands, which tend to be cheaper. Premium brands will cost a little more, and the full set might cost you up to $40, especially if you end up getting smoked paprika and Aleppo as part of your first set. But the other thing to keep in mind is you can stretch that cost out. Just buy what you need and add one or two a week or a couple of weeks or a month, depending on what your cooking is doing. You don't have to buy them all at once. If you're not going to use Italian seasoning right away, don't buy it until you're ready to use it. So if I was just starting out, these are the jarred herbs and spices I would want. Be aware, though, that before you know it, your adventures in cooking will reward you with a much larger array of goodies to add to your food. For example, this is my spice rack. Yep, after years of cooking, I have accumulated more than 100 herbs and spices to fill this rack. This beautiful inlaid rack was designed and built by my husband. It's my pride and joy, a focal point in my kitchen, and it makes using herbs and spices fingertip easy. So that's it. That's my top 10 list. If you like this episode, give me a thumbs up below the video. I would appreciate you following on social media at Being a Grok in the Kitchen. Again, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. And remember, life is too short to eat bad food.